And I must commend the team at GIZ, the NESP team, for doing an amazing work. When you look at, the work NESP has been doing across the sector, not just being based on mini grids alone, but touching electric vehicle, touching sustainability. Now we are doing career fair, we are doing a lot of things. And I think that's what the industry needs, to catalyze the growth and to help everyone within the industry scale. And so I've been introduced. My name is Olusegun Dunaya. I'm the CEO of Synergy Limited. We're a clean tech micro utility company. We use solar energy to generate clean, safe, cost-effective, and sustainable electricity in rural urban Nigeria. And what we do in the rural area is we identify commercially viable mini grids, commercially viable communities that have not been connected to the national grid. We then go into those communities to assess those communities, to do the demand studies, and then go out to raise commercial funding, to build those projects. And in the urban area, we help, commercial and industrial customers to diversify their energy mix. On one end, go green. On the other hand, help them to have, more affordable and sustainable electricity. And of course, what is happening in Nigeria as of today, how, the ongoing unfortunate war between Russia and Ukraine has impacted, on, the cost of energy globally. You've seen how diesel has risen, from, 350 naira to over 700 naira in just, 3 months. And so we help these people have cost-effective electricity, and we've been doing that for the past 12 years, and we've been over the past term. Should I close it and stop?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Okay, yes, but for a moment there we lost you. So I'm also trying to maybe consider, maybe perhaps you could turn off the video so that we can save some bandwidth and see if that improves the quality.
Oh, okay. Okay, so please, you can let me share the screen. I can't see it. I don't know if the screen is still shared.
Yes, I'm currently sharing the screen, and I'm looking at the problem or the opportunity. So that's pretty much like the third slide.
Okay. Okay,
yes.
So apologies for the breaking transmission. So back to the conversation. In 2019, Nigeria accounted for 90 million unelectrified people. And when we say 90 million unelectrified people, we are talking about 90 million people who are not connected to the national grid. And of course, we know that those who are connected to the national grid are highly underserved. And between March and April 2022, there has been 3 system failures from the national grid, which most of us know as a grid collapse. Another challenge, because you can see it as a problem, but you can also see it as an opportunity. Businesses in Nigeria lost about $29 billion annually because of unreliable electricity. And this is a World Bank data. And of course, fossil fuel air pollution causes about 1 to 5 deaths worldwide each year. And like I mentioned at the beginning of this conversation, diesel prices hiked to 700, 800 naira per liter from 350 naira per liter earlier this year. One quick comparison, if you compare the past situation in Nigeria vis-a-vis South Africa, of course, we know that South Africa currently is, undergoing, some challenges, ESCOM and, their power infrastructure. But you will see a country that has a population of about 55 million people, and generates, over 40,000 megawatts of electricity. If you bring that home to Nigeria, we have a population of over 200 million people, and we generate about 4,000 to 6,000 megawatts of electricity. So we are primarily generating about 10% of what South Africa generates, for about 4 times, the population of South Africa. And so there must be sustainable consumption, there must be sustainable production until our generation capacity increases. Because the truth is this, development can only happen where there's electricity. And so this is actually the base infrastructure. And that's why this industry is important. The numbers are out there. We all have read over the years how much the federal government has spent, on, the power sector in the last maybe 18 or 20 years. It's trillions of naira, but we've not really gotten the desired results that we are supposed to get. And that's why the renewable energy sector, decentralized energy is actually the future. And so I would touch a bit on some of the best practices, that as you desire to come into this industry, as you begin to, put yourself together, put your CVs together, as you begin to look for jobs, or you're about to start your own startup, whatever you're planning to do, these are things that you should put at the back of your mind. These are things that you should, you should think about. These are things that you should begin to see how you can make the best of them. And the first one I would talk about is that you should prioritize quality. I remembered when very funny scenario, when I started this company in 2010, the first client I had was a family friend, one of my, big aunties, who told me then that I should, come do, a small power backup system, which is basically inverter and battery in our store, in our supermarket in Lagos. And then I went to the market and bought the materials. I was fresh from university at that time, and then I installed. And then 3 months down the line, the batteries were no longer functioning. It was then I understood that I was sold a trailer battery, for a solar battery. And that completely, made me to start thinking, if someone had paid money to get things done, and in 3 months, it's no longer working. But not because I wanted to buy a substandard product. I didn't just know. And so if anyone is going to succeed in this industry, you must understand how to prioritize quality. And in the renewable energy industry, it is necessary to develop quality standards in the organization. So whether you are working for someone, or you are working in an organization, or you are starting your own organization, it's important to develop quality standard. That is what would make you stand the test of time. That is what will make your organization rise to the top. From scratch, develop those standards. Have it at the back of your mind. Buy today, that you can be guaranteed that if well used, those batteries can continue to serve you for the next 10 years. But there are also batteries that you buy that in 2 years it will probably stop functioning. And some of us have had experiences like this in the past. Maybe we've done solar or inverter in our house. People say this thing doesn't work, and most often than not, it has been a problem of quality, either improper design or the quality or choice of product used in that design. So whether you are going to be working as an HR manager, or as a data analyst, or as a CEO, or whatever role you are going to be playing in this industry, or you intend to play in this industry, put quality and prioritize quality, and let it be at the back of your mind. The quality of the infrastructure used, the processes in executing projects, the regulatory, guidelines, as much more should be prioritized. You want to ensure that you are following the required standard. Ensure that your engineers, have all the prerequisite certification, the NEMSE certification, they are current certified, so that at the end of the day, if something happens and people are doing, evaluation, it won't be because you did not meet the quality that those things happen. It will be because there were forces, beyond your control. So that's the first thing I would like to touch on. The second best practice I would like to touch on is the people, the team. People actually make organization. Why would the people we need at our company want to join us? Why would they want to do great work here? Why would they want to stay in our organization? And that's the question we ask ourselves on a daily basis. Why should people join your organization? What is your vision? What is your goal? Where are you going? What are the opportunities? What is the culture? I'm sure and I believe most of us are social media savvy, we would have read, and even participated in the conversation that happened, some few weeks back about toxic work environment and all those things, that trended on Twitter. What kind of organization are we? What's the culture? As a startup, one thing I cultivated over the years was that I will not go to bed until the salaries of my team members are paid. I'm not the kind of CEO that, takes care of myself first and then, tells my team members to figure things out. If I don't have the salary of the month, I don't take any trip. And those were even in the early days when the company was still young. Now we have a team of over 78 team members, and you can imagine, what the wage bill looks like at this time. So if you prioritize your people, there's an adage that says people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So as a startup who is, just coming into the space, you are leading an organization, or you are, occupying a critical role in your organization. How are you going to treat people? What are the innovative, and unique things that are bringing to the table? Because at the end of the day, people work for people, not organization. People work for people. People will come into your organization because of the quality of people, because of the interpersonal relationship, interpersonal skills that exist in the organization. In fact, people make organizations. And until we begin to realize that, we will not begin to see systems and structures that grow and transcends, the generation of those who actually started that organization. So renewable energy startups need driven, unique, innovative, go-getter team members. I remember I have and I used to say this, I have a colleague who joined the organization in 2018, July, and he was coming from a tech background, even though he understands finance and fundraising. So he was coming in to lead, our fundraising and growth department. And in 1 year, he was so committed to learning between July 2018 and July 2019 that I could easily, not attend meetings and send this young man for these meetings, and he would do justice, to the conversation. More so to the point that within the space of 1 year, there was virtually any continent in the world that I did not go to represent our organization. Either, this donor inviting him to contribute to, the funding they are putting together, or they are inviting him to be part of, an agro energy workshop. Why? Because he was committed to learning. He was committed to growing. He was reading everything available. Sometimes it's easy for us to compare our country to the US, to the UK, to Canada, and all those places. But to a large extent, we really do not have the same model. If you want to understand the electrification model, how as countries that have similar patterns, similar, electrification rate with Nigeria, how have they grown? Look at the Indian system, look at Bangladesh, look at some of those countries, how they've been able to bring people. In fact, of course, if you read, you know that the microfinance model, came from, I think, Bangladesh or so. So how can we, look at models that have worked? A country that has, electrified more than 100,000 rural communities within the space of 10, 15 years. How did they do it? How did they build sustainable grid? So reading, learning, growing, being committed to it's very, very important in this sector. And when you immerse yourself in these structures, you will find out that you will be among the few, that are rising to the top, not just within the organization, but within the sector, because continuous improvement, a lot of people think that there's a lot of money within this sector, or that there's a lot of subsidy, there's a lot of grants and all those things like that. But beyond subsidy and grant, it takes a well-calculated, well-developed, well-thought-out business model to succeed in this sector. You may get the grants today, but those grants will not help you run your company. Those grants will not help you manage your business. Those grants will not help you treat your people well. So it requires team members that are innovative, that are thinking, and that are committed to personal growth, to be able to contribute not just to the startup that they are working in or to the well-established organization, but to the entire, industry at large. The next thing I would like to talk about is for the people that I'm speaking to this afternoon to be the pilots. Can you be the man in the vision? Can you think like the CEO? Can you own the process? Can you take the lead? Can you be that person who will not go to bed until the last activity is done? Can you be that person who will not run away from challenges, but face them, head on? If someone succeeds, they are visible. But the same is true if they fail. In startups, there is more responsibility on each team member, and therefore a greater sense of ownership is bestowed upon them. So whatever your hand finds to do within your organization, because at the end of the day, we've seen how the telecommunication sector has grown in Nigeria within just about 22 years. I think this whole GSM thing started in year 2000, 1999 or 2000, as the case may be. We've seen the growth in the online gas sector. I often ask my team members, I say, if we are trying to build a world-class organization, can we look at world-class organizations around us? How do the people in GE, General Electric, how do the people in Siemens, how do the people, in Ericsson, how do these guys think? How do they behave? What is their attitude to work? If we don't bring in that attitude to our own culture, into our own individual life, we cannot be a world-class organization. We cannot get the kind of results that we get. You may rise fast, and then you get to that point, you peak. And then once an organization gets to its peak and they fail to innovate, what will happen? They will then start coming down, because at that point in time, maybe they've made financial reward their goal. And when money comes and you do not have a sense of higher responsibility and purpose that is greater than that, you begin to, that organization begins to come, in a downward trend. So can you be the pilot? Can you take ownership? Can you think like the CEO? Because if you have 10 people in the organization and at least 5 of them think like the CEO, they own the process, that organization would move mountains. That organization will go to places even beyond, their wildest dreams, and things that took, other people 3-5 years to accomplish. It will only take them maybe 1 or 2 years to accomplish, because everybody's hand is on deck. And I also speak to, potential colleagues, those who are going into the space to start their own business. It's important that you have a higher sense of purpose and a higher sense of calling. Why are you going to start this business? Why are you going to start an RE, renewable energy business, and energy? Because the opportunities in this sector are massive, from equipment financing, to data analysis, to metering, to being a developer. There are so many opportunities that we can play within this sector. And this is billions of dollars, in investment that is available, and that can be, reaped, return on investment in this industry over a certain period of time. So my encouragement and my charge to us is that we should have the ownership mentality, and I think if we do, we would see ourselves accelerate our growth by ourselves in our organization. And I often say it to my team members too. Why do we call for a strategic meeting and we select 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people amongst a team member of 60, 70? Why? Because they've shown commitment, they've shown a great sense of purpose and attitude to work. And those are the people you want to bring to the table to be part of decision making. So the next best practices I would want to talk about is document everything. Document everything. And this is very important. As you grow, begin to document your processes. Anything that is not written was never done. That's one thing we were told in our quality management system process. Our organization was ISO 9001 certified October last year, and in the process of making that happen, we were told that you must document everything. If somebody joins your organization today, can they pick up a document that tells them exactly everything about their role without them needing to ask anyone? Until that begins to happen, that you have your process, standard operating procedure. We've developed that in our organization. It was a painstaking process, because the average man wants to be led. They want people to do things for them. But we had to go through that process to document every process, from finance to people's department, to human resources, to growth, to engineering, to operations, to admin. All our document has to be controlled. So when people come into our organization, when you give them the document, by reading it, they understand where you are coming from, they understand where you are, and they know where you are going to. If you build two projects at the same time, can people go to those two sites and not find any difference? And if you tell them that two different people constructed this project, people will say no. Why? Because the quality and the standard remains the same. And that's why if you go to a KFC and you go to another KFC, the chances are that the taste of the chicken would, if not almost, it will be almost similar, that you will not be able to differ. Why? Because there has been a process. If you are going to fry one piece of chicken, this is a quantity of salt, maybe 2 centimeters. This is a quantity of water. This is a quantity of flour. The process is already set in place. So if you follow that process and somebody picks it up, not that somebody is guessing and putting his hand, the way those days when our parents, when they are making soup, they want to test it, they'll, put the spoon on their hand and taste it and say the salt is not enough, and then they add more. But you can actually get your process to a point that that I only need to add half teaspoon of salt in a pot of soup that is maybe 100 ml, and you will know that the salt will just be perfect, for it, all things being equal. In the same thing in this industry too, you can have SOPs. Document your business plan, your target, your lesson. It's important to document your wins, the places you failed, the places you did not do well, because it will become reference points as you move on, in the future. And as you bring in other teams, other people into your organization, they see, where you're going. And these are some of the things we should ask for as we go into organization. Are there processes? Are there growth plans? What is the, and all those things. And if we know these things, we even force, some of the established organizations to begin to think, in this area. And another key best practice I want to talk about is that we need collaboration and not competition. As a startup, as you begin to think about, doing something within this space, it's important that you collaborate. I remember we built our first mini grid in 2017. At that time, there was no mini grid regulation in Nigeria. It was being developed. And I think the mini grid regulation was passed, like 2 months after we commissioned our first mini grid. But we had not built a mini grid before then. We hadn't. And I was concerned that if we've not done something before, yes, it's solar. We've done a couple of small solar projects, before then. But this is a solution that has generation asset, distribution asset, and customer connection involved in it. So I tried to reach out to a few people within the industry that I think have done something like that before. I didn't get the kind of support I needed. I then went online, to look for where I can get support, to build our first mini grid. Then at that time there was the green mini grid help desk, that was being funded by Africa Development Bank. And I reached out to them that I'm about to build a mini grid in Nigeria, and I already have the finance, but I need technical capacity, I need technical support, technical assistance. And they were happy. They told me to write an application letter, which we did. And then we were paired with a consultancy firm in Germany, Inesos, to be precise. And they went ahead and did all the necessary designs for us. And when it was time to construct, part of that technical assistance was that one of their senior engineers flew into Nigeria for 4 days, and he spent 4 days with us on site. And I can tell you that's one of our biggest experience to date, because the guy practically trained, our engineers at that time, showed them. It was a leadership, installation. Oh, this is what you are going to do. Do you know why you need to do this? And he spent, I think about 5 days in our community in Kigbe, on the outskirts of Abuja, teaching us, helping us, and then we commissioned the site, and then he went back to Germany. And I can tell you that site has practically not had any major issue, till date. And between 27, it's more than 5 years now or thereabout that mini grid has been in operation. The inverter still intact, the battery still producing power, the solar panels, apart from regular routine and normal maintenance that you need to do. So seek collaboration. If you've not done something before, ask people who have done it before. Now there are so many players within the industry, that can support you to grow. I as a person have supported a few developers within the space, to help them at the beginning with their business model, their designs, and all those things like that. Many years ago, most of us who started, the industry early, there was really nothing on demand stimulation, agro energy, the convergence of agriculture and renewable energy. Those things were not there. Those conversations were not there. The conversations on commercial viability of mini grids, those things were not there. We learned it by the things we suffered. By the time you woke up and you found out that on paper, your financial model says you will generate 500,000 naira in revenue at the end of the month, and you're only generating maybe 50,000 or 70,000 naira in a month. You start doing, demand stimulation. But over the years, with organizations like GSU, you start seeing, several interventions coming into the sector, moderately designs, and designs that helps you to build efficiency and ensure that maximum uptake of your power is taken. So I want to encourage us to seek collaboration. Don't think that because when you're coming from another sector, it's a complete different sector. If you are coming as a career person, can you find a mentor? Can you find a coach? You are coming to Havenhill as maybe a business development person. Can you find someone else in another organization who is doing the same thing that can share knowledge with you? Not necessarily, their secrets or their trading, whatever, but someone who can guide, this is what this industry is all about. These are the areas you need to look out for, because those things will greatly help you in avoiding mistakes that you could have avoided. You don't have to repeat mistakes that other people have repeated in the past. And that will only happen if you speak to people, if you ask questions, if you collaborate. The industry is small, an industry that has so many opportunities. I don't see developers as competitors. I see developers as collaborators, and, when my colleagues do something noble, I send them a message. Congratulations. This is another win for the industry. A developer just commissioned a mini grid yesterday somewhere, in Niger State. I sent the head of the mini grid. I said, congratulations, this is a win for the industry, because that's how it should be. That's the only way we can electrify the millions of Nigerians that are without electricity. And the national grid, the discos will not do it. They can't even do it, and we are in the best position, to do. So I want to encourage us to seek collaboration, because it will help us to escape avoidable mistakes, and as I begin to wrap up, the presentation, and then take question and answer, I think one very important thing is continuous improvement. You must be hungry. You must be hungry for knowledge. Read as much as possible. There are so many free webinars on renewable energy in Nigeria, in Africa. Attend them. Take courses online. Do something. Just acquire knowledge. The more knowledge you acquire, the more you get better. The more you speak, the more you take in knowledge, the more people begin to wonder, and I've seen people, rise just by acquiring knowledge, by continuously improving their knowledge within the industry. If you're an engineer, take trainings, pay attention to detail. There are certain things that cannot be taught, like attention to detail, having an excellent spirit, taking a second look at your work. You know, those things cannot be taught. Those things are developed. They are inner traits that you develop. That when you do something, you take a second look at your work. Even as a business development person, as an HR personnel, you know, you write an email, you take a second look at that email. How does it communicate the value, the culture of the organization that I work with? You know, reading, taking courses. And as you begin to have resources, take paid courses, go for another degree in the renewable energy industry, because this is the industry that would shape the future, especially in Africa, as we begin to work towards, you know, getting most of our population from blackouts, you know, to electrification. And lastly, you know, we have on the screen here job opportunities in the renewable energy sector. You have human resources and people management, you have solar PV installation, you have solar design engineer, you have data analyst, you have operations and monitoring and maintenance, you have research and development. There's still a lot that we need to do in this industry that we not even started scratching the surface. You have marketing and sales, you have quality assurance, you have quality control, you have software engineers, you have lawyers. In our organization, we have 2 lawyers in our organization. We have a legal director, we have a resident, you know, legal associate, because there's hardly any day that we are not attending to one either NDA or agreement. And you don't want to get to a point whereby you will sign documents, you know, that you did not read very well. So even if we are going to buy an internet service for our office and there is an agreement that comes with it, the lawyer must review it. And that's the level we've gotten to, because we've seen what has happened to us in the past, how we've gotten ourselves into trouble because we did not read the fine print. So, but that if you are coming into the renewable energy space, you also need to learn the language of the sector. You know, so you know, there is also finance professional, business development, health and safety, very, very key. You know, communication, storytelling. As your startup begins to grow, you need to begin to tell your story. You need to begin to shape your own narrative. Because if you don't tell your story, people will tell it for you. And the way they tell it is the way you accept it. You know, so I look forward to, you know, even though I don't know most of us, you know, but I look forward to that in the coming months, some of us will begin to take, places, we begin to take seats in organization, decision making tables. And for those of us who are, coming into the space to start our own business, to start a small company, I wish us best of luck. And I'm hoping that, for those who need support one way or the other, please feel free to reach out, not just myself, anybody. I believe, most of the folks in the sector today will be willing to lend, a helping hand. Thank you. And I hope that we are able to find one or two things to learn, in this session.
Thank you very, very much, Mr. Olusegun. It's been a very interesting and very practical session. I think this is much needed because quite a number of questions like this came up. So I'm really looking forward to hearing some questions from the audience we have here. So please feel free again, like I said in the beginning, drop your questions here. We have a question, from Onu. He says, thank you for the session. Please, what are the major items to consider before starting up a renewable energy company or business? So I'm thinking you're asking about like very practically now in terms of what you need to prepare to get ready when you want to set up your own RE business or company. So from your experience, sir, over to you.
Okay, thank you. And thanks for the question, Onu. So you need to ask, renewable energy, renewable energy in itself is broad. Solar is renewable, wind is renewable, and so on and so forth. So you need to first of all ask yourself, which one do you want to go into? So if you are going into solar, there are several business models. You can decide that you want to do mini grids for off-grid rural community. You can decide you want to do solar arm systems. You can decide that you want to do C&I. You can decide that what you want to power is agriculture. So when you determine the sector you want to do, maybe based on the needs and the opportunities in those, and you can even choose to combine, one or two or three of those together. But I would suggest that you start with one, and then as you begin to grow enough and have footprints in the sector, you can then begin to add, other, business model to it. So once you have determined which part of the industry you want to go into, then do your research. Who are the players in those areas? What are they doing right? What are they not doing well? Where can you add value? You can actually develop your own USP, your unique selling proposition, put together your business plan, put together your, your concept notes. What are the regulations that apply? What are the certifications that you need to have, if any? Look at all those things, and then, if you've dotted all your I's and crossed all your T's, start. Look for customers. If you are doing mini grids, you need to identify a community. But don't forget what I have said. There are some things that you want to do. If you've not been in this space before, that you need to collaborate, to look for people who have done it before. Is there a particular way you need to identify a community? How do you identify commercially viable communities? How do you position your product? Because there are so many products in the market, and there are so many standards. You have solar systems that have the IFC lightning standard certification. You have some that, so when you need, do a lot of research, understand the industry, and then launch out. But don't be afraid to launch. You will make mistakes, but those mistakes are part of it. And there's room for growth, because I know people who their first stunt at the renewable energy was just 2021, and they are beginning to gain traction. And in some cases, there are programs you can leverage on that are available for startups that you can use to, jumpstart, your career or your business. There's a yearly all-on USADF, challenge that awards, partial grant and partial debt, to start your renewable energy. And it doesn't have to be mini grids or hardware related. You could go into data, you could go into metering, you could go into so many things, remote monitoring. There are so many aspects of the industry. But like I said, do a lot of research, look at this, the industry, study, ask questions, and I believe people will be able to share knowledge with you that can help you, take informed decision. I hope that answered that question, at least within the context of time and the limited resources that we have.
Yeah, I hope that actually did cover, but I'm sure it did extensively. Thank you very much for that response. So we have, I think, 3 more questions here. I think I can see a question from Daniel. He's asking, okay, he says, thank you very much, Mr. Olusegun. Actually, Mr. Olusegun Odunaya is the speaker for today for the insightful lecture. Would you advise a renewable energy enthusiast to gain some experience in the sector before starting up his or her firm? If so, how much experience would you say is required?
Yes, thank you for that question. If you have been in the renewable energy sector for some time, you need to. So let me tell you my own story. I read physics and solar energy at the undergraduate level. So basically what I had was theoretical knowledge, but I've done a lot of internships and all those things like that. So I started the company, So not that I had so much experience running a business or whatever, but that was a long time ago. That was over 12 years ago now. But I started. It might be difficult for someone to start in that format now, because now there are standards, there are regulations, there are this, there are that. So if this is something you want to do and you are just an enthusiast, and gain experience, and work under someone who is willing to mentor you. So don't make your plan a secret. Let it be clear from day one that this is your ultimate goal. You intend to do this and this and this in the next 2 years, 5 years, but you want to learn. And so when you find someone who is willing to mentor you and coach you, then go with that person. But most importantly, also have an exit strategy in plan. As you work every day, begin to put down your thoughts, what you are learning, because it will be crucial for you, down the line. I won't say there's a particular time that is needed, because you will not know everything you need to know, even if you stay in an organization for 10 years. Some things are better experienced than taught. But when you will know when you are supposed to leave. You know, a time will come, you will think that you've gathered sufficient insight that can enable you to start. But as you start on, you will face challenges, but you will surmount it. So I won't say you need to spend 2 years or 5 years or 10 years or 6 months. Just follow your heart. Have your learning goals, have your learning objectives. What are the things you want to learn? And then set a time plan. You work for someone 8 to 5 p.m. or 8 to 4 p.m. What do you do afterwards? You know, that's like 25-30% of your total, you know, hours in a day. If 8 out of 24 is about 30% or so. So what do you do with the remaining, 60 to 65% of your time? It will determine whether you'll be able to succeed at running your business or not. So, but just find, an organization where you can work, you can gain experience, and then when it's time for you to launch out, to just, take the dive. Thank you.
Thank you for responding to that question. And we have another question again. Well, we have 3 questions now, and hopefully we'll be able to tackle them with the short time we have left. So Mr. Onu again asks, thank you once again. Lisa, what are the common pitfalls to avoid when starting up? What if we don't have a lawyer or lawyers, as you communicated in your session? Are there firms out there that can offer similar support?
Definitely. Thank you for that question again. When I started, my my friend, who is our legal director today, of course, has always been a lawyer. So he was one that was offering, in most cases, pro bono service. The most important thing is that whether you have a lawyer in-house, or you have a friend who is a lawyer, or you have an organization you can contract this thing, ensure that there's someone that is helping you to review legal documentations. There are so many law firms in Nigeria today that are focused on this sector that I'm sure some of them can even design a package for you as a startup, because one of the things I have learned is that if you grow with people, when they grow, they make you their client or they make you their customer. I don't know the right word to use now. It will be difficult for you to change. I remember one of the big fours were pursuing us for years that we should come and do relationship with them. But we were running away because we know we couldn't afford to pay them. And then they started offering us opinions, tax opinions, this one, that one, do it this way, do it that way, free of charge. The day we then had money, it was easy for us to go back to meet them because we've developed that relationship. And they also knew that if we continue to support these guys in ways that doesn't hurt us and doesn't cost us much, when they are able to afford to pay, they will come back to us. And that's what is already happening now. Now we can pay them at least to a reasonable degree for some of the services they render to us. So I would say that work with established institution. I'm trying to get work with established institution, and just ensure that there is someone who is more learned than you and who understand some of these things better than you. It takes a second look at everything you are trying to do. There are partnerships that you go into that may ruin your business. You need to understand which ones are positive and which one has negative implication. Don't jump at everything you see, because some of them are just there to use you to advance their own agenda, and then you are there after months looking like, oh, but these are some of the things that I've seen personally in the space, that if you are taking certain decisions without critically looking at it, maybe the organization would have been history as at today. So that would be my comment on that question.
Okay, thank you. So there's another question from Jibril. He says, thanks for the session, very impactful. Please, my question is, how do you meter to the customer from a mini grid?
Okay, thank you, Jibril, for that question. So it's simple, like I said during my presentation, during a mini grid construction, you have the generation, you have the distribution, and you have the customer connection. generation assets that you deploy. The distribution network is a grid. You install your concrete poles, you put your cables on it, and the customer connection is the meter. The same way you have a prepaid meter in your house, that you use. All customers in the mini grid too have prepaid meters that they put, either on the pole or in front of their house, and they are able to vend and buy electricity. So it's the same way. What you see in the urban area is what is applicable in the rural. In fact, we have more robust architecture than what you see, because most of the meters in the urban area are not smart. In the rural areas, almost, if not all developers, they use smart metering softwares, that they can vend and see the consumption of their customers from anywhere they are in the world. So it's the same thing that you find around.
Okay, thank you very much. So we have 5 minutes left until the end of the session, and we have 3 questions to go. So I'll just read out all 3 questions, and hopefully we can address them within that time. So the first question is from Ebube Chukwu. He says, please, is there room for volunteering services for the sake of acquiring more knowledge? I do house wiring, and I've taken 1 or 2 trainings on solar installation. Then the second question is from Olubenga. He says, can we construct mini grids to power estates or smart cities in the peri-urban or urban areas? How viable could this be? Then for the last question, well, second to the last now, we'll just have to take this, but sorry, we can't take any more questions. If there are any more questions, we'll just have to, I would have to share that directly with the facilitator, and then probably he can get back to you. Then the question is from Yusuf. He says, thanks for the session once again. To be a technical expert in REE, please, which certification, that's organizational membership, would the person require in order to design and implement a project? And then lastly, how do you have to sell to disclose? Do you have to sell to disclose, or you sell directly? So these are the last 4 questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. I will answer the questions in less than 30 seconds. So for the first question, I believe we already have, a relationship with the team at GIZ that are putting together this, program. So if you want to volunteer, I think the best thing to do is to reach out to the team. I think Sharon and co, who would then guide you on how to go about it. They may have, 1 or 2 developers or whatever that they can, pitch you with. I think they will be in the best position, because of course they will talk to you, know your skills, your area of, know which organization they can, probably recommend, for you to go to. But I think that opportunity exists within the industry. Yeah, so you can construct mini grids to power estate and smart cities in peri-urban and urban areas, and they are becoming more viable, especially in urban area and peri-urban area. We are beginning to see, projects that are viable coming up, because there is significant commercial and productive customers, present in those communities. And so to Yusuf's question on technical experts in RE certification, I think one of the key certificates you need to have is your NEMSA certificate to practice as an electrical installer. As an organization, you will need an organization NEMSA certificate. Every engineer too should also have a renewable energy NEMSA certificate, and of course, maybe your current certification, and of course, your normal either BSc or HND certification that qualifies you to be able to practice in the industry. And yes, you don't have to sell electricity to the disco directly. You can, and most mini grids in Nigeria are isolated, meaning that the disco is not involved. You generate and sell to the customers directly, collect your revenue, and repeat that process all over again. Maybe in the near future, we'll begin to have, and we're already seeing that in some interconnected mini grids projects springing up in the country, where there's an interconnection between the mini grid and the distribution company. Thank you everyone for your time, and thank you, Sharon, for moderating this session.
Thank you so much, Mr. Shegun, for taking out your time. It's been very interesting. It's been very informative. Quite a lot has been learned here today. And I dare say some unique words that stood out for me, or at least statements that you have made. You need to have a higher sense of purpose, a higher sense of calling. Collaboration is still very much strongly encouraged. And you also need to have that ownership mentality. Interestingly, also the part where you mentioned that anything that was never written was never done. I think we do not have that culture of really documenting. And thank you very much for really stressing that aspect, especially for us, for startups or anyone who would be interested. So thank you very much for all the questions. Thank you to all who have attended the session. This marks the end of the masterclass session that is a series of the masterclass sessions that was organized for the Energize Career Fair. This is a pilot initiative, and we're hoping that probably future collaborations will be able to have more speakers as we provide more insights to young professionals in the sector. It's been very rewarding so far, and thank you to everyone from the Alliance. I can see them here on the call. Thank you so much. And thank you to all the team from NESP who are also on the call here today for putting this together. So as we round up, just to let you know that this information has been recorded and we will share it to everyone via your emails. If you haven't received any email directly from NESP, please feel free to drop it in the comment section so that we can collate it and then share the link because the videos will be quite heavy. So we'd most likely send it to you via YouTube link so that you can watch that directly. So thank you again, and I look forward to engaging with you all as we advance our careers. Thank you so much to our speaker here today. I really wish you all the best in your endeavors as you move on with the company, as you move on to achieve higher milestones. Thank you so much again, and do enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you, everyone, and bye.